Hi, everybody. My name is Holly. I'm going to be your leader for week 3. We're going to be discussing the different stages and the group dynamic. And I want to go over some group rules that I have put together for everybody. Um, so today, one of the group rules is that everybody shows up ready to participate and contribute to the discussion. I've also made an order that we can all agree upon. If it works, that everybody kind of answers the question in order so that we're not all talking at once. And of course, for the last discussion, we can kind of openly just talk as we have stuff to say. And also, the last one is just try to stay on topic, just so that we respect everybody's time and hoping that we can get this done between 30 and 60 minutes. So the order that I have selected randomly, if it works for everybody, I can answer the first question, and it will be Angelina, and then Katie, and then Monica, and then Tanya. So does everybody agree to this or have any other suggestions that they would like to contribute?
It's good.
We're good? Okay. Okay.
Good.
So let's get started. So today, our questions are, I'm gonna put A and B together just because they kind of are related. So discuss a group that you have been part of, and choose one of Tuckerman's stages of group development, and discuss an observation or experience that's positive or negative within your group that you choose to discuss. So I'll go first. So I'm going to discuss my role at the hospital. I am a medical lab assistant at Royal Inland, and I've been there for 2 years and have been part of many roles, from training staff, working individually, and working a part of a team. I am around many different personalities, and I can see a variety of values, cultures, and beliefs from staff as well as the patients that I work with. So the experience I'm basing on is the stage of storming. And my experience actually happened about a week ago. So due to summer and minimal staff, we have many challenges at the hospital to fill shifts. This experience was about a week ago, and our staffing department had technical difficulties with the call-out system, and our main scheduler was on vacation. So due to this, we had someone who was not familiar with our region, and therefore on a busy Monday, we had 3 shifts that were not called out for. I came in for my shift at 6 a.m. and was the only person who showed up. And mind you, there's usually 4 people to come in for the 6 a.m. shift. One of our girls had slept in, and 2 shifts were not called out. So as you can imagine, I was super stressed out. Our managers were not even in to discuss what to do, and I had stat timed and fasting blood work to complete right away. So I took on the role of 3 people, and my workload was super heavy. It was the busiest I've ever been. I felt super burnt out and exhausted by the time my break came. When I went into the lab for my coffee, my managers were not even aware of how short-staffed we are. So saying this, they were asking why there were still routines up on the board, which are labels for blood work. And there was a big communication error, and they were very unaware of how my morning went. So in the storming stage, I felt overwhelmed, I felt stressed, I felt confused at how my managers were handling it. I questioned authority and the lack of teamwork from my team. I ended up working overtime just to help my team members complete the workload. And I felt that was a bad experience because I felt that my team had failed. But later that day, we did overlap into the norming stage, and that was where I felt there was a stronger commitment with team members, and our management team made more of an effort to get the shifts filled out the following week, or that week, sorry. So that was my experience, which went from a negative to a positive. And yeah, does anybody else have any other experiences? You can elaborate on mine, or if you have a different stage that you experienced with that model.
I have, Holly.
Yeah, sure.
Or does Angelina need to speak first?
No, Go ahead, Monica.
So we're going in order. I had that recently over the whole COVID thing at my workplace. Same kind of issue. A lot of people weren't showing up to work, and I was left by myself for 3 days doing a 3-person job. And just because my manager didn't have a backup plan, so I was taking on a larger role than I normally do, and it was really stressful for myself and the pharmacist working, and it was not a good experience. So I would consider that a negative experience with storming. However, learning from that, the manager changed that and it turned into like a norming stage. It turned negative into a positive as well.
Perfect. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, storming can definitely be negative, but it definitely overlaps into that norming stage and it can turn into a positive experience. So, sorry to go back into the correct role. Angelina, do you have anything? Do you have an experience at all?
So mine is different from you guys. I actually did the group of just being part of the RDPN group. And for me, this storming was like when we were first down in Surrey and we first were sitting around the table and introducing ourselves to each other and coming up with all of our group rules and all of that. And that to me felt like storming because we were trying to make a good impression on each other, and it was, we were just meeting each other and we were just sort of working things out as a group, whereas now we're past like the norming stage in that. But that was for me the first part of like storming.
For sure. Thank you, Angelina. Sherry, do you have anything?
I do. At my job at South Hills as an RW, we have to run groups for the clients. And I actually really don't enjoy doing it. It wasn't until we started studying some of this group work in this course that I realized why I don't like it is because it's incredibly uncomfortable. And I think part of that is that as a casual, and lots of other people are casuals, there's a group running, but each week it's a new person running the group. It's someone who's come in and might not know, like as a casual, might not know all the clients. I don't know the content. I don't really know what they did last week. We kind of just have this binder that we try to follow. And so I think that in that, or in those groups, there's a few of them, we get stuck in that forming stage in every single group. It never really moves beyond that because it's always a new person, and the group doesn't really get a chance to develop. And I feel like it doesn't really lead anywhere. And in that forming stage, Dr. Tucker talks about that people have this sort of polite but distant relationship with each other, and the guider or the leader is the one sort of doing all the talking. And I find that that's what's happening when I go into these groups. It's incredibly hard to engage people and move beyond that forming stage because we're still in that place where we're trying to set the ground rules, we're trying to get to know each other, and all of this is happening within sort of 45 minutes every single week. The same thing is happening in the group where it's a new person and trying to run the group. So now I know, after kind of studying all of this stuff, that that's why I don't like doing the groups, because it feels like it never gets past that first stage.
Holly, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry guys. I can definitely appreciate that. I feel that when new people coming in, it's not very personal, and especially if you don't get the roles and the responsibilities assigned to somebody, people feel anxious, people don't know what they're really there for, and it's just kind of a cycle. Probably better to have that same person coming in every single day, so that you go from norming and then you can move storming and forming and everything. So Thanks, Carrie. Tanya, do you have anything to contribute?
Yes. So I'd like to say that I'm not myself today. I'm still kind of feeling under the weather. So hopefully my participation will still be adequate. I can't think of a situation for group at the moment, but listening to everything that you guys have said, I'd just like to kind of throw that all together and just kind of talk about what I'm hearing everybody say. And I think that in the groups with the storming phase, it might be, the idea of being vulnerable to people that you're not really sure about because it's the beginning phases. Even though you did that forming, you're still kind of learning each other. So there's a certain vulnerability. And also just with the different styles of communication. So I can see how the different styles of communication would cause a storming issue, where some people may feel like they may not have enough information, or some people may feel like they have the whole story, and it can just kind of flow into where is that middle ground where everybody can start to move into the norming phase.
Absolutely, Tanya. That's definitely true. I 100% agree with that. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add, like any reflections or anything, somebody said something you want to kind of add to it?
I just wanted to speak to what Tanya was saying about the vulnerability and how it is really vulnerable when you're with people that you don't know, and how that having a consistent person who's sort of facilitating a group can help with that comfort level, especially if it's like a group of people that don't know each other and come from completely different backgrounds and different ages. It can be really hard to kind of get that going so that any flow can happen in the meeting.
Agreed. Okay. So we're going to move on to question 1C, if everybody else is cool with that. Okay, so we're just going to go back and we're going to discuss the storming stage, how to recognize it, and the role it plays in group development. So I can start this off. So like I said, the storming stage, for me, I expressed my experience. I believe this stage is where people push their boundaries and the various work styles do come out. The team members will then, question authority. Team members may be overwhelmed by their workload. So going back to my experience, I super overwhelmed by my workload. I didn't feel like I had adequate team members to help me. I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable with the approach that my leader was using at first. There was a huge communication barrier. And to recognize, I just feel like, when you see stress, when you see conflict, I think that's when the storming stage is pretty clear. And I feel that team members are not going to have this relationship with their colleagues at that point. And I feel that this is the stage that most teams will end up failing if they're not able to move on to the norming stage, where, of course, everybody kind of resolves their differences. So, Angelina?
Yeah, for me, the storming stage, I took from like our little cohort, our Kamloops cohort, and I think it really became pretty evident after we started doing the case studies for farm when we first started those, because I kind of took the lead on that, and then there were issues towards the end where there was emails were kind of going back and forth and little text messages and stuff like that. And I feel like that's when we kind of all sort of stopped and came together and had more open communication that allowed us to sort of move into the norming stage and to be more comfortable with each other. Because up until then, we hadn't really done anything. Like, we were all just still being very polite to each other and really just getting along. So I think when we first started doing the case studies, that's when I first started to notice that we had issues between everybody's personalities coming out and stuff.
It's a really good example, Angelina. I think that, especially when you start to feel pressure, that storming stage can definitely be more clear. So, but yeah, that was a really good example. Carrie?
The storming stage, I think, is kind of that stage that can be really awkward. There can be a lot of tension, and it can be that time when you have feelings of maybe feeling inadequate. And they talk about, well, Dr. Tucker talks about sometimes with those inadequacy, people may just shut down and be really shy and quiet, and then other people might also be feeling inadequate and vulnerable, but to counteract that, they might be really outspoken. So he was talking about how stronger members will, be heard in the group, and then sometimes those people that are, feeling more shy and not feeling comfortable talking out can then end up feeling really isolated in the groups. I feel like during that stage, as a group facilitator, it's really important to try to make sure that everybody's included. If you can read that somebody's maybe feeling shut down and they're not sure how to contribute, it's trying to get them contributing, and then also having to manage maybe the people that are speaking up too much and taking up all of the floor space.
Absolutely, Carrie. I agree. Monica?
I take the storming stage as this is where team members look for respect and recognition. They're focused on impressing others than the project or assignment on its own. I wrote down that group members during this stage may feel insufficient or not enough, and others may make them feel less confident and may not give them the confidence that they need to be valued as part of the team. This stage may be recognized at the beginning of a project where interaction and ideas take place within the group development.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. Tanya?
Definitely difficult going last because you guys all put it so beautifully. When I think of the when I think of the storming phase, it's almost like a brainstorming phase. Like you have the forming stage with the leader doing the introduction, saying the rules, and people have the ability to stay more silent. And at the storming phase, it's almost like now we have to achieve something, now we have to go somewhere, now everybody has to participate. And everybody being so individual and unique will have their own ideas. So when you're brainstorming, you're trying to bring all of those ideas together and then come to a conclusion on which one's going to benefit everybody. And that's kind of what I picture when I hear storming.
Yeah, that definitely is a really good example, Tanya. And I just wanted to reflect on what you said, Carrie. When you're talking about, how people take on more of the workload, and then people who, kind of shy away and they feel a little less, or they feel more isolated. I did read in our week's reading, how people, they would be categorized like the free rider, the people that are kind of sitting back and getting that same participation mark as that person who's working, getting all the marks. And then it comes down to the point where those people actually start dumbing themselves down a bit because, the people that are isolated are, kind of taking their participation mark. So I think that working equally and having a balanced participation in between the whole group is super important, because then you're going to be having these people that are working a lot harder, and then people who, just expect that free ride. So I think that's super important to definitely think about when you're working in a group. Okay, so we will move on, unless anybody else has something to say. Anybody at all? Okay. Let's go to, okay, so question 1D. So discuss the adjournment stage and how to recognize it and the role it plays in group development. So this one, just see what I wrote down here. This one was kind of, I mean, other than like our clinical groups and how we've adjourned those, I guess like to say I didn't really have much to say on it. If I were to be talking about like where I work, there's definitely not really an adjourning stage. But this basically stages where you know, they end of it, like if they reach the end of the stage. Most teams have a fixed period, or there may be a restructure to organize the team better. I feel with this stage, the team members who enjoy routine and certain structures, they may find this stage challenging as the future does look uncertain. So I'm going to use an example with the whole COVID, a lot of people getting laid off. This was basically like an adjourning stage, and they were forced to take this stage. So of course, these people are going to be very uncertain looking at their future. Angelina, have anything to say for this one?
Yeah, for me, I was thinking about, again, this program, and we've all been together as a group since, March 2019. And then, very shortly, like it's only a year away, we're all going to be out of school and we're going to be actually practicing. And it's going to be a little bit weird because we're in sort of a groove now of like, getting up every week. There's a new content and doing the IDPs and forms and everything like that. And then all of a sudden that's just going to be gone and we're just going to be out in the workforce. So it's going to be interesting.
I definitely agree with you. I feel like, especially with the group that we're in, it's definitely going to be different when we graduate because we've all become such a close-knit family pretty much, and that will be our like the adjournment stage. So yeah, it's definitely going to look a lot different than what it is now. So it's kind of different to think about, that's for sure. Carrie, do you have anything?
Yeah, so that stage, I think that speaks to some of the things that both of you were saying about how that can be a difficult stage because people are bonded and it might be really hard for them to let go. And so that stage in, a group setting might be hard to kind of get people to disengage or, move on. Some of the things I think as a group leader you can do is summarize and reflect on the meeting and kind of give signals at the meetings winding down. I really like the idea of that being a time for accomplishments, and I think that adding like a ritual almost to the end of a group can be a way as a signaling that the group is coming to a close. I know in our RW groups, at the end of it, we have like we have a fishbowl, we walk around, people take out a piece of paper, and there's different things that they can get. Some people get prizes, and that's kind of like a really nice positive way to just finish the group and just leave it on a positive note. I know I'm a part of some workshops that I've done over the years, and we always dance at the end of the workshop, and it's just like a really fun way to just kind of like release some of that energy that you've been putting in being a part of something. So I think that that can really help with that end stage by having something significant to kind of signal that the group is ending in something really positive.
I really like that. It kind of just like leaves everybody with a high note, and everybody kind of goes in there, they've learned so much about themselves, personal growth and learning opportunities, and they're kind of ready to go on to that next group atmosphere, probably learning about their failures, about their successes, but it's nice to have that team atmosphere come together at the end. So that's a really good example. And Monica?
I felt that the adjournment stage is like an important role in group development because I feel like it demonstrates how teamwork can work cohesively and how a team can handle certain situations. Will we each recognize each other's work and achievements? And I feel like I feel like we use the adjournment stage quite a bit, like as a group when we have had group like IDPs and stuff. We each need to kind of like, we each are responsible for a certain role in the group project or assignment, and we kind of discuss what's done, and then by the end of it, we all say thank you, or whoever took the leader role, we all say thank you. And I think that's really important that we each show each other's achievements, because it just makes for the next project or assignment, we all know that we're all going to give each other the respect and attention. I feel like that's a big part of it in the adjournment stage.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. And Tanya?
So I was thinking also about the flip side. I think in the readings that happened this week, I learned that not all groups get to the phase of normalizing, but the group still does come to an end. So from that, it talks about how people can take their experiences into other groups, and it can cause difficulties in the forming and the what was the other stage, the storming stage, until that normalizes, because they're bringing in the experience that they had from the last one. If it wasn't a good experience, a good group experience, and coming together and being able to come to some conclusion for the task that they were provided with. So I kind of see both sides, both the positive and the negative to the adjourning.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with you, Tanya. If does anybody have anything that they would like to add to that at all? Yay, nay? Okay, so going into the next question, it selects the least important group development stage and discuss why. So now, like, hearing what you guys all say about the adjournment stage, like, I kind of have mixed feelings on it, but for me, I thought the adjournment stage was not the most important. And I just felt that not all teams adjourn. And I think that I was just particularly focusing on like my job, like the hospital team. I'm trying to think of a time like where it would be like an adjournment, but that's obviously never happened. But like looking at our school and stuff like that, obviously, we definitely have an end stage. But anyways, for that, when we do adjourn, we learn growth and we learn empowerment. So the group has been able to form, and it storms, it norms, it performs, and then it successfully, if they're able to get to that adjournment stage. However, I do feel that people strive for routine, and the future could look uncertain when a group does adjourn. However, they have learned powerful tools to continue on to the next group they are part of. So that's definitely something that's a positive. And individuals have experienced failures and successes as a group, and they can recognize great leadership skills as well as poor leadership skills. So that's definitely something that is a plus when you are adjourning. It is super important, although I didn't think it was as important as when a group comes together and they storm, and they get to that performing part of success. So that was just my little take on it. But anyway, Angelina, do you have anything?
It was hard to pick one that wasn't really as important, but I sort of felt like the norming wasn't the most important stage. Forming and storming for me were important because that's when you're going to have your conflict. That's when you sort of come out and do the communication and really get into a nice smooth flow. And then performing was important because that's actually putting out the project or actually accomplishing the task. But norming for me was like, we could probably just move right into performing and you would sort of not notice it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Angelina. I never thought about that. So that's great. Carrie, what about yourself?
Just to speak what Angelina was saying about the norming stage, there was an example in the Tuckerman resource about how there was a business that had been stuck in that norming stage for 15 years and couldn't get past it, which I thought was interesting. And I really wasn't able to pick a stage that I thought was least important. I think they all play an important role. I felt like the performing stage wasn't less important, but I feel like once you got to that stage, it was definitely like the easiest stage, because during that time, you know, there's flow happening and there's like group cohesion and everything's kind of flowing. So I feel like that once you get to that part, it's kind of the easiest stage, but not the least important, because that's when the most kind of insights and ideas generated most would probably happen in that kind of creative performing stage.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. I feel that like it's the easiest stage in where leadership is not having, you know, they're able to kind of create their new group members, where group members are like having, you know, an easy time performing because there's no conflict, you know, everybody is going for that goal and striving for it and being successful and achieving it. So I definitely feel it's an important stage, but I definitely agree with you when you say like it's easy for that stage to happen. So once you're in it anyways. Monica?
Well, I just thought that for myself, I felt that all stages are important for group development. I felt that each stage has a unique way to help the team reach the end goal. So I couldn't quite pinpoint what was the least important to group development stage. I felt like each of them are contribution equally in a way, in a sense. But then after hearing Angelina and Carrie Ann talk about the performing role, like it does make sense that that would be the least important, just because by that point you're already past everything and you're just kind of going through it and reaching the adjourning stage.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. Oh, sorry, Tanya. Go ahead.
It's okay, you disappeared, so I thought maybe you got distracted for a minute. So I just agree with everybody else and what they're saying about the norming and the performing phase. I think that that's definitely an area where it's a little easier, but it does contribute to the group process as well. Helps it to remain positive and to continue that performance. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Tanya. Sorry. Okay. Let's do our last question before our other group. Oh, never mind. We have two here. Okay, so that was the least important. Let's talk about the most important development stage and discuss why you selected it. And I'm just going to kind of briefly go over it. I have talked about it quite a bit. But the most important for me was the overlap between storming and norming. I felt this was the most important development stage, as this will allow the performance stage to begin. So it's kind of like a stepping stone to the performance stage. To be able to recognize different values that each member puts into the group and making sure the group is balanced with equal roles and responsibilities. This will allow everyone to socialize and engage while working efficiently as a team. There may be more negative experiences that come along with storming, but as they get worked out, more positive relationships can develop with team members and authority. I felt also that confidence and self-esteem will enhance when people feel important and significant part of the group. And the more empowered people feel between group members and leaders, the easier it is for performing to occur, where there are plenty of supports for group members and the team goal is being achieved together. So that's my take on the most important development stage. Angelina?
I agree with you to an extent. For me, it was the storming stage is the most important, because I feel like if you don't get past the storming and move into the norming and performing, then you're always going to have a group that's sort of under conflict and under tension, where as they put it, you're going to sweat the small stuff, and it's going to hold your group back, right? Because eventually all that tension and all that small groups that form within the larger group, that's going to cause everything to eventually fall apart. So even if you can accomplish tasks, it's not going to be the best. So I think for me, it's storming and moving through the storming stage.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I feel like going from storming to norming, it gets you to that performing role. I just felt like the two of them together, but you're right. Storming is very important for the group development stage. And without like getting through the conflict and learning about yourself and personal growth, there's no norming and there's no performing stage. So thanks, Angelina. Carrie?
Yeah, I agree as well. I did pick the storming stage, and I think I picked that one because it is one of the most difficult stages. People can be feeling really vulnerable and fearful of that vulnerability, feeling inadequacy and feeling discomfort. And I feel like that's really a stage where the group could get stuck, where people could feel isolated, and then there could be conflict. But I feel also that if, as a group, you can work through those feelings of inadequacy and discomfort, then there's going to be a lot more progress and a lot more richness in the group. But I feel like with those uncomfortable feelings, it has the potential to go either way. So I feel like that is a really important stepping stone for moving on to the group progressing. For sure, you could get stuck.
Perfect. Thanks, Carrie. Monica, do you have anything for that?
I do. I had written this before obviously we did this, but now that I've heard your guys' feedback on what you thought was the most important, I would definitely agree with you guys now. But at the moment, I felt that the norming stage was an important stage for group development because that's where you're contributing your knowledge to the team and you're creating ideas and making decisions and asking for guidance from your team members if you're having a difficult time with your role. I believe that this stage helps establish relationships with the team, working together, sharing thoughts and ideas. I feel like that's kind of an important role in all of the stages, and you can work towards a successful end achievement.
Absolutely. Okay, and Tanya.
I'm really liking the conversation about the storming stage because I agree. I believe that it is really important and that you can get stuck and can't move forward. But when I think about the question, I also think of the forming stage. The reason I think of the forming stage is because that's where you learn to fight fair. And that's where you learn your expectations. All the ground rules are put down, and everybody kind of has a set of guidelines that they should be following no matter what their feelings are underneath. So there's like that building of trust, even when uncomfortable, and just the idea of respect and working together as the group. And I mean, it's going to go into the storming stage at some point because of all the different personalities. I just think that the forming phase is where there's the guidelines.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I feel like with the forming stage, that's where you kind of get your expectations and you kind of just lay down exactly what the ground rules are, what everybody's kind of expectations are within the group. So, no one's kind of blindsiding you. So I definitely agree. Does anybody else have any reflections on that, or should I move on? Okay. So the last question before our next one, consider the importance of your chosen stage of development. And so look back at a time and how did that observation or experience help or hinder the group? So if I'm going to go back to my experience that I'd shared with you guys, okay, so for me, there will always be a storming situation when it comes to working in the hospital. whether it's conflict, staffing issues, and challenges with roles and responsibilities. It doesn't always have to end up being a negative experience. However, if it is, it can turn into a positive as well as a learning opportunity. So going back to my experience when we were short-staffed, it felt negative for much of my shift. However, when my managers caught wind of it, they acted fast to get those shifts called out. I can appreciate a busy workload on a Monday, and I understand authority faces their own challenges being in their role. But at the end of the day, so their staff is what keeps the lab going and the workload going throughout the hospital. So in that experience, my manager thanked me for bringing this to their attention, and staffing got involved to ensure these shifts got called out throughout the week to ensure I was not faced with that situation again. So this experience helped the group because it's all about the reaction and the action involved to solve issues and work through challenges together as a team. So that was my take on that. Angelina?
For me, it's going back to when we were first a group and we were first starting to do projects together and starting the case studies. And I think that the storming, we were lucky that we were all open to communicate with each other and to work through any conflicts that arose, because it quickly led us into the norming and the performing stage. I think if we had had any issues where we couldn't have moved past the storming stage, it would have been difficult to still be in this group with each other and having to work on projects if we hadn't been able to move past the storming stage.
Sorry guys, my kid just put a toy on. Okay, I definitely agree with that, Angelina. I feel like especially all together working as a group, like we all kind of have different personalities. So there was definitely like we all are very open with each other. So that worked out really great that we were able to, you know, in the end just kind of like work everything out and come up with like a better way of doing it for the next time. And it was nice that everybody kind of took on that leadership role, because I think that throughout the weeks, I think people were kind of scared to take on that role. But like as the weeks went on, we just kind of did it and it worked. And I feel that from the beginning of our school and to now, we've really bonded and really became like a really cohesive and strong group. So yeah, that's a really good example. Carrie?
Going back to my experience as an RW facilitating a group, I think that I talked about the forming stage, and I think I can link that to what Tanya was saying about that forming stage being really important to set the intention of the group. And I think at that time you can also really work to sort of set the stage of the group and sort of create a really safe space for people, and then hopefully be able to move into the other stages more smoothly with maybe a little bit less discomfort.
Absolutely, Carrie. Monica? 1 second.
Should I talk or? I guess I'll just start talking. I wasn't sure how to answer this, but I kind of felt that because I chose the norming stage as the important one for development, I kind of started thinking about the adjournment stage again, just based on my previous experiences with group assignments and within the cohort, and I felt that it didn't hinder the group at all. I felt like it, in fact, helped group experience, just because like we've already gone this far, we've already done the norming, the performing. I feel like we kind of already have that bond as a group team. I felt like that the adjournment stage is really, I don't know, for me, and an experience that helps the group at the end, because we all just know that we all know what the end is. We all just want to get to the end. We want to be successful and we want to achieve ultimately the utmost good experience together. And by now, I believe that we've all have a good experience working together as a group. And so I feel the German stage was an important one that I chose.
Absolutely, that's a really good example that you share with us, Monica. And Tanya, do you want to share your thoughts on this?
I didn't really have a chosen stage development and experience, so having a difficult time answering the question. I can see how all stages actually help or hinder the group. You know, in the forming, if the leadership is a little lacking, then I can see how the group won't form that trust or that bond, because that's more the leader's turn to start help forming the group and getting people involved with each other. So I can see how that would hinder the group. And the storming, definitely, I think that there's a lot there with the conflict and how the conflicts can help people to grow and to learn more about themselves and contribute more to the group. Yeah, it's really hard just to pick one, because I can see how all of it flows for the group dynamic.
For sure. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so we'll just move on. Our time's getting a little bit cramped here, but that's okay. We're gonna take turns now reviewing the types of individuals from Schultz's theory. Do you guys all have your article with you, or has everybody kind of gone over it? It's just basically describing the three different, I guess, types of personality that would fit you individually. So if you want to go around, this can be like an open discussion. Let's just talk about what type we think fits us individually. And then we can kind of go around and just have a few opinions on, say, like our coworkers, our peers, and each other. So I will start. I didn't really know which one I was. I kind of was in the I kind of chose two, but the one that I kind of chose for myself was the last one. And that one was the affection, need for affection. So I feel that I'm the person um, who wants to feel likable and has a fear of feeling rejected. And that was kind of like how that part of the individual, that theory fit its needs. I felt that with all three of them, like the way that we dictate our behaviors, it impacts everyone around us, but it's like our core of our being. It's the way that we perceive ourselves, the way that our behavior is shown, how we show our attitude. So I feel that every human being wants to feel either significant, competent, or accepted. And I feel that when we create an environment around us that makes us feel those feelings, it allows us to work together in collaboration, with honesty, with productivity, and accountability. So out of the three, out of the inclusion, the controlling, and affection, I felt that I was the affection one. Um, and I don't really know why. I just always feel like I need to be liked, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I just felt that was the one that suited me the most. So, Angelina, would you like to share yours?
For me, it's need for control. There's no question, no doubt, need for control. I think it's come up like throughout us being in the group, during clinicals. I will take the lead and often do take the lead. So it is need for control. I have found it a little bit difficult for some of our group projects when I've been giving up the control and letting other people do it. So that's been a bit of a learning experience for me. But for me, for sure, it's need for control.
Sorry, my mic thing wasn't working there. Thanks for sharing, Angelina. And I feel like I want to thank you because it's so nice to have that leader, like personality in the group that kind of like takes on different things. And I'm going to be honest, I've actually learned a lot in this group, and it's made me like I've always been really super shy, and it's made me actually be like, okay, like I want to take on the leadership role every once in a while because I'm like learning those like traits about myself, and like I can do it, and it's like it's a learning opportunity, and it's as well it's like growth, like personal growth. So I want to thank you for being who you are because it kind of like it kind of makes you grow, I guess. So Carrie, what about yourself?
Um, I felt like I probably fell under the need for control category as well. I don't feel that I don't feel the need for affection. Like it's not important to me that people like me. For me, it's more important that I am showing that I'm like responsible and competent, and that's where they sort of described some of that need for control. And I also think that I know that about myself because I do a lot of self-reflection. Like I think this is a place where we really can know ourselves well and see that your need for control, for myself, my need for control comes from, experience that have happened to me in my childhood that makes me want to control my environment so that I feel safe. Or, reasons why I might feel that I want to be known as being competent or responsible. So all of those things come from sort of our upbringing and experiences we have had. I think that it's really important too that we can recognize that sometimes people's needs for control, need for affection or inclusion or whatever it is, can be really triggering. So also understanding, I think, why we might be triggered possibly by maybe somebody else's need for wanting to be liked, or those things can come up with us as well as being triggers, and being able to self-reflect on why that would be a trigger for you. So I think that it's a really interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, I actually really strongly agree with that comment, Carrie. I feel like our upbringing, the way that like we were raised, just as a child to adolescence to adulthood, it kind of shows what kind of individual you are. But it's also good to be like self-aware and like do those self-reflections and just know yourself. And yeah, I really strongly agree with that. So thanks for sharing. Monica, what about yourself?
I would say that I would be the need for inclusion type. I just felt that it's important to me to maintain a respectful interaction with all team members. I like to have a sense of belonging with my group. I like to contribute to my team because it shows that I'm participating fairly. I also felt that I like to have a little sense of recognition, I guess, just more in the sense of feeling important to the group. I'm not sure why I feel that I am this type. And I think it just depends on, like, I just want to be an important member to the group. Like that really is important to me, I would say. I feel like I'm definitely not the type of person to have control or be the type of leader just because I'm not at that level of having that confidence. So I definitely would think that inclusion is something that I feel that I'm good at because I feel that either I like to make sure that everyone else is included, as I've been there before where there's been a member where they don't feel included and they don't feel they're important. So I just feel like, I'm putting myself in their situation and because I know what it's like. So yeah, I'm the inclusion type, everybody.
No, that's super interesting. And like when I was reading it, like I don't know, all three of them, I mean, I can kind of relate to all three, but that one was really interesting. Just like, the need to feel significant and like you fear of being ignored. And like with mine, I was like, I want to be liked and feel being rejected. Like that one just like resonated with me just a little bit more just as I was reading, but it's really interesting like how you can relate to each one just like being self-aware and just, knowing, you had an experience where you didn't feel like being left out, you want to contribute to your group. So, no, that's really interesting. And honestly, Monica, I definitely would put you in that category for sure. Like, I think that's awesome. What about yourself, Tanya?
Well, I had difficulty with this question because I could see myself in all three depending on situation. And I don't remember all of the characteristics, but I think that I finally picked it out. I just don't know which one it falls under. And it's because I've listened to you guys. Like, you guys are amazing. And this is like our first group today for this course. But just how open everybody is and how deeply we're getting connected and just I'm inspired and I'm in awe. Like, I admire you guys so much. So I think that there was a part on that characteristic list about deep connection. So I don't know if that was the affection or if that was the inclusion one, but that's kind of where I'm leaning in just how it affected me and impacted me on what you guys were saying.
Go ahead, Angelina.
I just wanted to say that throughout the whole, like from where we all started at the very beginning of the program, I can see that we've all grown to be, I don't want to say better, but we've grown to learn how to be in a group and how to interact. And like Monica, I've seen you take the lead on some stuff. So even though you're not the need for control, you have started to come out of your shell a little bit and to take the lead into some things. And so you're not, you're not always just standing back. So it's been nice to see everybody sort of, step up and take a little bit of control sometimes and take the lead.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like with doing this group stuff and, the more that we get into this program, we're all kind of growing and we're, doing things that is out of our comfort zone. And I think that all three groups have like characteristics of everybody, but like one person might just relate a little bit more to that. Like, starting this program, I never would have been like the leader type, and here I am. I'm a leader right now, right? So like, it's personal growth. Mine is like the need for affection, but it's not so much that I want people to like me, but it's like I am so like I'm a sensitive person. I have empathy, and like I'm always like making sure that other people are comfortable around me. That's just like who I've always been. So I think that I lean on that one the most. But like I said, I feel like all three of them, they kind of relate to everybody. And the more that we're in this program, the more that, we're going to be psychiatric nurses. I think all three of these are going to be super important in our roles. So, yeah, that's where yeah. Does anybody have like the last two questions is, so we did that one. Which type fits your coworkers or classmates? Like, we're talking about ourselves, like pretty much all of our opinions of each other. Oh, sorry, Carrie, did you have something?
No. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying something. Sorry. Okay, so it just says what types fit some of your coworkers or classmates. I kind of feel like we've gone over that unless somebody has like an experience with a coworker. And yeah, if you want to compare each other with one another, we can go ahead and do that, and then we can kind of do a little quick recap of our meeting today. Anybody have any stories or anything about your coworkers or?
I feel like working with nurses, there's a lot of strong personalities, and there will be a lot of people who have a need for control. And I think that that's another place where it's really important to know yourself. And I know I have a need for control, but it doesn't overtake sort of my interactions or my day. And I do know when I can see someone who really wants to be in control of something, and I'm fine stepping back and saying, if that's what you like to do, if that's your area that makes you like it's all yours. And I feel like there is a lot of that in my workplace, and a lot of people that are older and have worked there for a really long time. And I do often just step back and say, go ahead. Like, and so I think that it's also important to have a lot of flexibility in, if you are a need for control kind of person, is knowing when it's important to step up and when it's important to let somebody else do it, and where that's coming from sort of inside of you, like what your intentions are for your control is important as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like our self-perception is definitely shown through our behaviors and our attitudes. So I mean, if we have a place in our core that comes from a bad place and we're trying to, you know, bully someone around or leadership and it's in a bad place, obviously we need to kind of be more self-aware of what's going on inside, right? So I definitely think that has a huge contributing factor to that. So how is everybody feeling about this? Should we go ahead and do a recap, or does anybody else have anything else they'd like to share with us? Okay, so today we talked about groups that we've been in. We talked about the different stages of group development. We all shared an experience that was positive and negative. We got to discuss the stages, how we recognized it, our least important to our the most important. And then we also got to talk about the different types of individuals that we are, and we kind of were able to get deep with each other and kind of just bounce ideas back and forth and our opinions and who we are. I just kind of want to leave with a closing thought here. So in this week's reading, I read that a high level of cohesion influences members of group behaviors in many ways. I felt that today's meeting was super like high level participation and a high level of cohesion. I felt that our group is like super bonded and we're able to really just share ideas with each other, and no one really feels isolated. We're just kind of, you know, we're openly able to talk and communicate, which is amazing. You don't really see that in many groups. So I feel like we're kind of a few steps ahead than people that are just like meeting for the first time. So I felt really comfortable talking with you guys today. But I also felt that the cohesion influences the group behavior. It influences the willingness to take responsibility toward the functioning of a group, which I felt that we were able to do that today. Willing to express feelings, which I felt that happened. Be eager to listen and eager to learn and give feedback, which definitely happened today too. And with more motivation and behavior comes greater satisfaction, more significant commitment, increased level of goal attainment, higher levels of participation, as well as increased levels of confidence and self-esteem. Another closing thought is, while having this excellent group cohesion, we were still able to be unique in our individual ways and express our personal opinions and beliefs within the discussion. So I just want to thank you guys for coming together, and I thought that went amazing. And I will end this meeting, and I hope that you guys have a great week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, everyone else.
Thank you.